Okay, Matt, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I sure do. Hello and welcome to God Dot's podcast with me and Charles. And this week we have Pastor Denise, which is our very special guest, Charles's mom.
Yes.
I'm excited for this because
yeah, me too.
She's one of my favorite people. But anyway, this is God Dot's ministry stories and the people you meet along the way. And lo and behold, here's someone I met along the way, you could say. But yeah, Charles, how was your week, Charles?
Week was good.
That's good.
I've been working in the crypto space. Love it. Like it. But anyway, I think our beginning is a story, a tale, and a lie, correct?
That is usually the case.
Do you have your ACV ready?
Well, I'm on a very strict diet, so I don't have my AVC ready.
Well, what are you going to be drinking, Matt?
Water.
What?
I don't have anything.
Matt, what can you drink?
I don't know.
What can you eat?
What can I eat?
Yeah.
It's 500 calories a day.
What are you doing?
It's called the Hcg Diet, and so you use these drop things underneath your tongue, and then you eat 500 calories a day. This is my first day of not doing the gorge days. I'm doing it, and then Averill Johnson's doing it, and then Pastor Susan's doing it, and then Deborah is also doing it, who is
Deborah,
which is Jeremiah's mom, is also doing it. So I'm doing it with a bunch of women, but I want to lose weight, and I figured might as well join them. So
there you go. I like it.
Do you have your ACV ready, Mom?
Uh-huh.
Do you really?
Oh,
those
wow.
are gummies. Those can't. What's going on with you two? You guys have abandoned post.
It's the only thing I had. And I was like, oh, I need some ACV. And so, yes.
Okay.
It tastes like vinegar, though.
I have real apple cider vinegar. Apparently, I'm going to get the short end of the stick no matter what happens here. Apparently, Matt will be sipping water. My mom will be eating gummies, and I'll be choking down Satan's spit over here. Don't mind me.
I will act it up just for you, because I imagine you're probably going to get it right.
How do you know you can't have ACV?
Is
there any calories in ACV?
Probably not. There's nothing like in my stomach. So to just have ACV in my stomach.
Go get the ACV. I don't have anything in my stomach.
No, but I mean, I have like less than nothing.
Matt, go get the ACV. Go get the ACV, Matt.
Should I get the ACV?
Yes, get the ACV.
This was actually just a joke. I do have other vinegars, but they're not ACV vinegars.
I had an idea between me and Matt, and before Matt, went white sauce on me, milk and water alone.
Okay.
No, this is my idea. She would give out the things, and then we would both guess, and whoever got it right wouldn't have to drink. But if you're going to be drinking water, I might as well just drink this now. I might as well just stuff her before.
Do you not remember my text conversation with you? I never confirmed nor denied if I could drink ACV.
Oh my gosh.
Mainly because I didn't look into it.
Oh
because I don't want to drink.
Okay. How about this? You're drinking ACV this week. Next week, we look into it.
What? No.
Matt.
I do want to hear some stories, tales, and lies. But
you do? Okay. Oh, man.
I do. What if I don't know, Charles? I don't.
Matt, what are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm trying to do a podcast. I thought we were also going to talk more about fitness and health, but it sounds like this is a normal podcast, which I'm also cool with because I want to do many episodes with Pastor Denise.
Oh, you guys, you're blessing me.
Okay. Matt, you have to figure out something gross to drink or we don't have a segment.
Well, no, we have a segment. I win.
Oh.
For the audio listeners, Charles is thinking.
I'm pensive.
Let me see. Where was the text? Because I
You
remember.
Vinegar.
What?
You could drink some other kind of vinegar.
I don't have any other vinegar. I really just don't want to.
Matt, go get the ACV. Go get the ACV, man. You can't just not want it the day before or right before.
I texted you like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The ACV.
I said I'll have to double check.
We'll evaluate next week.
All you said was how interesting. I was thinking of some new games we could play, and that's it.
Well, we don't have any new games. Get the ACV. We'll retool. We're sipping.
That's my water.
All right, y'all.
Okay, so look what I got.
What you got?
It's icky.
What is it?
It's balsamic vinegar.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna be worse.
Are you going to be able to sip it?
Oh yeah. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more than enough.
Be careful, though. It's tough stuff, I'm telling you.
Woo!
All right, got it. It's right here, clearly.
I know the ACV makes...
See, it's right there.
Oh, my gosh. It makes my stomach curl.
Exactly. Which.
All right. Get your shot glass out. Let's do this. Let's hear it. A story, a tale, and a lie.
Okay, I have categories. Okay.
What does that mean?
Categories out. So one category is things that I did when I was a teenager.
Okay. Are we supposed to pick the category?
Well, the least likely for you to know it.
Okay.
Next category is stories from Go, which I thought was appropriate, or stories from right before you were born through the main part of my life.
This is sounding like you're going to be. This is sounding like you're going to be on more episodes. That's what it's sounding like.
Well,
Matt, what do you think we should choose?
I have more stories.
What do you think we should choose? Young teens?
You're not that old.
Baby me, or what do you think?
Well, I don't want you to get it, but I also want to guess it. So I feel like we'll both.
Let's do teenage. Let's do teenage.
All right, let's do teenage.
Teenage for 10,000.
Teenage for 10,000. Uh-oh. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
I'm nervous.
Okay. So you picked the worst category. So, okay. Because it was my before Christ days, Anyway. All right. So
I think it's a good segue into the story. That's why I chose it.
Okay. All right. So the first is, I went to an all-girls school. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Private all. And anyway, I'm a little embarrassed. That's why I'm hesitating. And so,
well, tell the older ones then. Tell the older ones.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I already know that this story is half true, at least, because I know you went to an all-girls school.
Okay. Yes. So, but
that means it's 50-50.
So it was a college prep school. So as a result, you had your own schedule. Okay. So they were getting you ready for college. So I would skip school quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So that's one story. Okay.
And you're embarrassed about a lie, huh?
Okay. The next one was during that same time frame, even though it was a Christian quote unquote school, it wasn't really, but anyway, I dressed, since the season is, we're getting ready for our October 31st party here. And so anyway, I dressed like Satan, much to my stepmother's chagrin. She was not happy about it. And I ended up getting in a fist fight. And I landed in a pile of leaves, and I went to the ER. And and it ended really bad. And I was grounded then thereafter.
Oh, you were grounded then after. Okay.
And then in the season of that as well, I dressed as a prostitute, another Halloween. And I was dating your dad. And no, I'm telling you wrong. Okay.
Mom, a story, a tale, and a lie. What's happening?
Your dad went as a prostitute and I was his pimp. That's what it was. So this is all before Jesus, okay? All before Jesus.
Okay.
So I got gloriously saved.
I think you need to tell some different stories.
No, what?
I know all these. You've told me these stories. Yeah, you've told me.
You know all these stories.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Why are you confused, Matt?
Well, because with his commentary, I'm like, well, maybe he's right. The first one could be half true. But then at the same time, man, maybe it's all true. I don't know. So I'm confused because of him. They're not all true. I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm thinking. You know, Charles, if you know them, what's your answers?
See, okay, do you have 3 stories, Mom, that I don't know for sure that you've never told me? They don't have to be revealing or anything. They don't have to be pimp and prostitute stories. They can be any story at all. They can be like little nonchalant stuff about your cat growing up, or like your dog, or your home had brick walls and you always like to walk around your house every once in a while. It can be something small. I know your pimp and prostitute story. You love to tell that one.
That sounds like a fact.
I'm just joking. She doesn't love to tell that one.
If there's photos of that.
There's very few people I've told that one to. Oh my gosh.
Well, that one's true.
Huh?
That one's a true one then. So
that one's true, yeah. Okay, do you have 3 simple stories on the fly that I don't know for sure?
You know, just do the gold one. Do the gold ones, and then I will probably know them. Maybe. I don't know. We weren't in class with you all the time, though.
I know. That's why I was trying to think about that. Okay. Well, you have to answer the first ones. What do you guys think they were?
The first ones I know. I think the first one is a tale. I think the second one is a lie, and I think the third one's true.
And that's actually how I was leaning too, because
yeah.
Because the devil. Who would dress up as the devil? Nah.
No, she did dress up as the devil. So the first one was either half true. The first one was half true. The middle one was a lie, and the last one was totally true.
So the same answer you just gave.
Yeah, I don't know. I needed to say it again, I guess.
Okay. You want to hear the truth?
Do we get it wrong?
But we'll do something else. Okay.
Wait. Okay. So
right?
The first one then is a lie. The second one's half true, and then the third one is true.
That is correct.
Well, no, the first one has true stories to it. It has true elements.
Skip school?
Yes, it's half.
You said you went to an all-girls school.
Right. But that's just setting the story up. But
that's true. Isn't that part true?
No. That part's true, but the other part of skipping school is not.
Which means it's a tale.
Which is a tale.
Elements in their untrue elements.
Tales and a truth. And I goofed up. I'm sorry.
Oh, so this is a wash. All right, do the next one.
Do the next one. We're ready.
Okay. All right.
I made that mistake too, Mom. When I had to do my story tale and a lie, I incorporated true elements in my lie because I was just pulling from my life. So making something up completely didn't come out. So Matt was going to get it wrong no matter what.
No, I had it right. I had
it
right, but then I changed all my answers mid.
Oh,
you can go back and watch it.
Yeah, that's right.
That was episode 1.
Okay, give it to us again, Mama.
Okay, totally different?
Yep.
Okay, so, all right, so I Oh.
Did you choose all embarrassing stories or something?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm a little nervous, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So when I used to go and, we'd have these long periods of time that we'd be in class. So I would try to incorporate some interactives and some fun things. And so it seemed like everybody really, really, really liked the Bible quiz tournaments,
Okay.
right? Okay. So we're in the gym. And this one time in particular, we are breaking up into teams. And Charles was the captain of the team. Okay. And so I was randomly pulling out who would go on what team. And I'm watching Charles' face like melt as he's realizing he has people that are not in the word.
Oh, really? I think this one's definitely true, depending on your completely sincere reaction. Like, is this a lie? Are you reacting this strongly for a lie right now?
Keep it going. Keep going. The story. This sounds fun.
He was like, and Zach Yano was what it happened. It just was how it happened. I didn't choose them. It was how it was happening. It was unfolding. And Zach Yano was another captain. And so he's getting all these wordsmiths. They're all hungry for the word on his team. And I'm watching my son's face like, fix it. He was so frustrated because he had people that were not. Oh, it was great. It was terrible. But then you all came in last. So anyway, I don't know if you remember that or not.
I think I do remember that. I think I was on a different team, but I think I was on Zach Yano's team.
Okay.
It was like me.
You were on my team.
No, I think it was like me, Reagan, maybe Zach Johnson. We're all on that team. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But we like smoked the floor with everybody. Either that or that was another time. Anyway, what's your second story? Tale or a lie?
My second story, and I have so many from being at Go, is I was watching this, the game that y'all would play. I was watching this take place. So I'm like on the periphery and I'm watching these girls gang up on one of the guys. And it's super, super hot outside. And they are dousing this young man with whipped cream and just covering him. They had some other foodstuffs. I think there was peanut butter involved and banana involved. And they are just dousing this young man. And he couldn't move. And he was getting madder and madder as he was getting covered with food. And so anyway, I'm thinking, is this good? I don't know if this is good. But I was laughing so hard. I was of absolutely no help whatsoever. So anyway, so that was another story. Echo.
Okay.
And the third was we would have lab classes. So everybody would get super geeked out about, preparing their message and bringing it in and so forth. And so this one got really super excited about going all out in character, and they came in their Spider-Man costume. And so as they came in, everybody was, of course, relaxed and cracking up and the whole thing. And they're just super, super pumped about getting engaged with this message because this person's in character. But at the end of it, this person got booed. And so then I had to correct the whole class because they got booed.
And you said they were in a Spider-Man outfit?
Yes.
Sounds like somebody I know. Matt, did this happen to you?
Well, I don't remember being booed. So
You don't remember that?
I feel like all these stories are true.
I think they're all true. I don't know what
Because I think the second one is Brian. Brian was always tortured, and I remember him being in full of whipped cream. So at first I was thinking that was a half truth. But then you said the other one, and I did wear a Spider-Man costume.
Did you?
Hold on. I wore it underneath my. Maybe that one's half.
I think you don't even remember your own life, Matt.
I wore it under. I want to say I wore it underneath.
How would we know? How would we have known?
Because I wore it underneath, and there's probably
on?
video evidence. No, I had like the button, but I was like,
oh, I see. Okay, this is what I'm gonna choose.
Okay.
I'm gonna go first.
Well, okay, if I go first, the first one's true, the second one's a lie, and the third one's a half truth.
Okay, I think the first one's true, the second one's a tale, and the last one's a lie.
Okay, so You say Bible quiz?
But
It's
yeah,
true.
you know that I wore a Spider-Man costume. so-
Bible quiz is true. Yep. The second one is a tail, and the
Spider-Man.
last one is false.
I'll be right back.
Matt, but we're about to miss the reveal, Matt. The reveal, Matt. Okay, here we go.
Is he okay?
No, he's gonna put a Spider-Man costume on. I can almost guarantee it.
Oh Lord. I had so many stories. I was like, oh my gosh.
Knew that was gonna happen. I knew you were gonna get that, Matt.
That particular story, you knew he was gonna really?
No, I knew he was gonna go get his Spider-Man costume. Okay, so what is the verdict? I believe 1 true, 2 tail, 3 false. Matt, what is yours?
1 true, 2 lie, 3 tail. Half true.
Okay, give it to us, Mama. What is it?
Okay, the Bible quiz story is completely true and still makes me laugh my head off to this day. Just
Okay.
think,
Yeah, that
Hey.
makes sense.
okay, the story about
It
the
is,
game
Matt. Here it is, Matt. Are you ready?
is a lie.
Oh,
I never witnessed that.
oh, bummer.
Okay, and the Spider-Man preaching in the Spider-Man costume is a half truth because he was not booed. He was actually very encouraged, and it was awesome.
I thought Matt just didn't remember his own life. I guess I should have believed better about Matt, that he would remember his own life.
Now, there was another time, and I was hoping to confuse you because there was another time that they were not being nice to one another while they were each doing their labs, and I did have to bring correction. So I was hoping to confuse you with that.
I see. Well, you didn't need that specific part to confuse me. You got me with number 2. Matt, cheers. I guess I'm drinking.
And I'm not, so I didn't have to grab it.
Yeah,
I was right. I'm a prophet. Not really.
Yep, you're a prophet. All right, here's to prophets, Matt.
Can we drink with you?
Oh, no, Mama.
You sure?
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's how it
Just
worked
this
last
time.
time. Eat the gummy.
They do smell like vinegar. Mmm. Mm-mm-mm.
Oh, man. That was a lot.
That sounded like a lot. Are you okay?
Just give me a sec. I'm going through something. A transformation, a metamorphosis.
I'm sorry, dude.
Oh.
See,
Don't
the
worry
diet,
about
the diet worked. I didn't have to drink.
The diet
Huzzah.
worked. The diet worked. Okay. Wow, that one was, I don't know why, but that one was specifically intense. I'm getting a little bit of a gag reflex.
All right.
A bit of a a bit of an autonomic response.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna jump in here while he's suffering there. And
jump on in.
and remember to all our subscribers that we have what? Oh, he's gone. Okay. Well, remember to all our subscribers that we have the subscriber challenge thing of first 50 subscribers, we'll pick one to win $50. Charles is gone. This is weird.
Have you guys looked up what ACV does to your stomach lining?
I have not.
It's possible that it perhaps isn't good for you. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, it is good for you in like a teaspoon or a tablespoon of it, but
Well, yeah, I'm only doing it's only drops throughout the day.
oh, you're talking about HG,
What? Wait, what were you talking about?
the apple cider vinegar.
Oh, yeah.
In that-
Yeah, that's probably a bad idea. We probably should stop. You're right.
I was just curious what it does to like your stomach lining
I have no idea.
because it's vinegar.
We should look it up and stop doing that. I would be happy to stop doing that.
Whose idea was it?
Charles's.
To what?
The apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, I wanted to incorporate, like, whenever you have some type of torturous event, it's entertaining.
It is
So I
entertaining.
wanted to incorporate some type of torture, and that did it. I really had to go to the restroom after that.
You okay?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like so good. Okay, Matt, you want to do our next segment?
Oh man.
Oh, so the story time where
Let's do it.
So we have the great, the wonderful
The
Charles's
amazing,
mom.
the kind.
Yes, very kind. Pastor Denise, I will just jump in here before we get started that she's awesome. When I was in Go and I was always having trouble or anything, she would be one of the first people I would call for advice. And she's very full of wisdom. I love sitting under you whenever you're teaching, like even the boring stuff on how to start a church. You always make it entertaining. Well, I don't remember any of that, but I remember it was fun because you were teaching it. And so you're awesome. And yeah, so this is story time. You have, well, I don't know when the Zoom recording will stop, but you have 20 to 40 minutes on the clock. Give us your ministry experience, the nitty gritty, the boring, the untold parts, the awesome parts, everything. So yeah, just you got 20 to 40 minutes. Give us kind of your ministry journey. This show is called God Dots. So you're obviously a God dot to Charles, being his mom, and you're a God dot to me. And
being
so
a surrogate mommy. She
so
carried, not in a womb.
Okay.
Okay, so all right. You want to know the journey, huh? All right, so let's make this as entertaining as possible. Okay, so yes, so way back in the day, our family, this was like the late 70s, early 80s, like, so there was a movement called the teaching movement. And so it's when predominantly the Word of Faith camp or that movement really started beginning to gain ground. And my entire family came in to know Jesus in 1979 and 1980, which is pretty cool. When you go literally from darkness and the whole family, except one, but they're now, living for God too, which is exciting. And so anyway, I was 14 years old, and I knew shortly thereafter that I would serve God with my whole life. And I thought, because my experience was as a Catholic, and I went to Catholic schools, which I'm super grateful for, the academics and all of that. But I just assumed that would be as a nun. So I went and spent an entire summer in a convent. Just thinking that was how I was going to serve God, with my life. And I really, really, really liked the Pink Sisters, and the Pink Sisters lived in a cloistered environment. And my experience with them was they lived in downtown St. Louis. Of course, there are other Pink Sisters all over the world, but they were not allowed to speak with anybody. They were not allowed to interact with the general public. Their call was to pray behind closed doors, and that's what they did. And and they wore habits, right, and head to toe pink, fabric, and that what
the nuns in pink.
Literally
nuns in pink. I've never seen it.
What was that?
I've never seen a nun in pink.
Yeah, it was a real pale pink, and very monk-like, if you will. And so again, that's all I knew. So I thought that that surely must be what the Lord was calling me to. But shortly thereafter, a born-again, spirit-filled priest came to our church and was assigned to our church. So in that denomination and lots of other denominations, like the priest or the pastor gets assigned from a higher authority to that place, and they'll typically stay 2-3 years. I personally don't believe that that's a stable way of doing things, but according to the word, but nevertheless, that's how they conducted their ministries. And so he came in, and little did we understand that he was a Christian. So pretty cool. I was going through the training for it's called catechism in Catholicism. And it was usually in 7th or 8th grade. And then the end of that is you would be you would go through a ceremony, and it was one of the 7 sacred acts that they call every Catholic to. And so anyway, this priest is praying for us and he's laying hands on us, right? So the whole class. And I had never seen a priest lay hands on someone to pray for them. Of course, that's an ordinance of the church according to the word, but that was not something that we did growing up. And so everybody was kind of fascinated by this, and he had everybody lined up, and he's praying for everybody one by one. And he comes to me and he throws his hands up in the air and he shouts loud. Now, this is a Catholic church, right? And he shouts, Maranatha. I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
So it's a Greek word for the king is coming. And so I knew in that moment, which was the wildest experience, and this is true, that I just felt the weight of God's presence, His glory. And I had never experienced anything like that before. I wouldn't have even known how to, in 7th grade, how to even put words to that as to what I was experiencing. And I just felt such a heaviness of His presence that I'm wobbling around. Well, there's no ushers. There's none of that. You know what I mean? This is the Catholic Church. And we started having these charismatic Catholic meetings where people were getting baptized in the Spirit down in the basement of the Catholic Church. And we're all just getting on fire for God and just passionate for Him, and lives transformed. And none of us knew what was happening. I mean, God was just visiting us, and it was so transformative to our whole family. It was just crazy amazing. And anyway, but because I was never discipled, I never got into a solid Bible-believing church home until I was about 19 or 20. So the rest of those years, and so I said those other stories like they were before Christ, simply because it wasn't that I wasn't born again, but I didn't know Jesus. I didn't have any tooling or equipping in the Word. I had no resource to how to stand my ground, know who I was in Christ, know what belonged to me. I didn't know anything. And so as a result, then, I began to waver and get pulled back into old relationships and old ways of doing things, old patterns of thinking. And it wasn't long, within the next year, that I was doing stuff that, sorrowfully regretted. And anyway, but God is so faithful, I can't, I think it's the 13th chapter of Hebrews, and it says that He sends His ministering angels on behalf of those who shall be heirs of salvation. And I saw that passage long after I had come to really make a decision for Christ. And I thought, man, you kept me safe. You kept me protected, even when I shouldn't have been behind the wheel. I shouldn't have been driving, these sorts of things. And wow, God, that He's just so faithful, even when we're unfaithful, to keep us in that place. And anyway, so marching forward. And so I get married at 18, very young, and still married to my precious husband. And we'll be celebrating 37 years in a few weeks, which is pretty exciting.
Wow.
And it's just amazing. And
it's rare.
It is more rare. It's kind of sad, but it's true. And yet, in God, we can kind of draw a line in the sand. I'll say that specifically to young people coming up now, and they can say, even if that's been my experience, it doesn't have to be my experience going forward. It doesn't have to be that way for my kids,
Yeah.
And the power of decision, I had no idea of how much strength was in the power of decision. And so anyway, advancing forward. So I'm like 19 years old, and I still have this, this calling, right, is just stirring in me. And so I decide that I'm going to go to college, and I come to find out that in order to get any kind of government grant or whatever, that the federal government, through FAFSA and all that, will not pay for any kind of Bible education. And I thought, and so I just thought, well, I'll just go get my gen eds and I'll put that aside. And so, thought that I'd missed God again. And then 2 years later, my husband gets transferred to a little city called Emporia, Kansas. And lo and behold, it was a Rhema church. We went to school at Rhema Bible Training Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I had no idea what Rhema was. I had no idea who Brother Hagin was, blind to that whole, how should I say,
movement
or family in the body of Christ, had no idea. And so anyway, ended up, I'm trying to make a very long story very short, but the bottom line is that they had a Bible school at this church. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. I'll sign up.
Pause real quick. We got to restart the Zoom because we're about out of time.
Oh, yes.
I'll call you right back.
Okay.
Yep, right back.
We are back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right.
Start off wherever you were.
Okay, I take it you're going to edit this, so this is good. Okay,
Yeah.
So the bottom line is they had a Bible school in their church, and so I thought, oh, this is perfect. I can honor God with what I knew and sensed that He had called me to do, and was just super confident. So all these years had passed, but I was still confident that He had a call of God on my life, and it continued to just call me. That calling, it just keeps calling, and anyway, I signed up, and your sister was a little bitty at the time, just a little bitty gal. And man, it was really difficult to try and, be in school and care for her. And I didn't have some, skill sets yet as far as discipline and structure and all of that. And so I felt like it was overwhelming. So I remember going to the pastor's wife and just saying, I don't know if I can do both of these at the same time. And she gave me some fantastic counsel. And interestingly enough, she had actually been trained, even though she was a Rhema grad, and again, that was blind to me. Before that, she had actually been schooled by Amy Semple McPherson, and the church ended up going Foursquare and getting involved in that camp. Totally amazing. And anyway, so she gave me some tremendously good counsel, which was God will bring it back around. It's okay if you need to take the time to focus on your daughter. And I did that very thing, which was the best advice. And so advance forward, then I am 31, my husband's 34. And my husband had this, as sales and acquisitions, right? In this cellular market. So cellular was new. The whole idea, the concept of cell phones was brand new. And his job had promoted and grown into him taking cellular that existed in big cities and taking it to more rural communities, smaller communities, that kind of thing. And so we were getting transferred a lot. And we just had to look at it as an adventure, or it was like, oh, we felt like we were in the military, And anyway, but with the sale of one major corporation taking over another, much like T-Mobile just bought out Sprint in this last year, and our daughter experienced that same thing. She works for T-Mobile. Anyway, his position had been what was called displaced. And so he had already been stirring that we were supposed to go to Bible college. We just didn't know where. And, that was a big step because, to be honest, he's making six figures. I was able to be home with the kids full time. That was, extremely comfortable life. We had a beautiful home that was built in the 1800s, had been totally restored. And so to lay all that aside and say, yes, Lord, we needed a word from heaven. But I am confident in hindsight that we were operating by a gift of faith, because it was completely illogical to sell everything that we had and just follow after the Lord hard. And we did. Wow. And it was absolutely life transformative. I remember 6 weeks into class, and I looked at my husband, and we're of course assigned to be seated next to each other. And so it was just like an extremely bonding time for he and I around the word. And and we both closed our Bibles. We're finishing up class that day with Brother Kenneth E. Hagin, right? His prayer principles. And I looked at the Bible, and I looked at him, and I closed up my Bible, and it was kind of like a thud, And I said, have I ever read the Bible? Because I don't even think I've ever read the Bible. There was such revelation and such wisdom just pouring into us in class every day. It was crazy. And completely life transformative. So to give you a little bit of an insight, I knew the Lord and I loved Jesus. I knew I was headed to heaven, but I had no victory on this side of heaven, like none, because I was so void of the word, the fullness of the word and understanding who I was in him and all of that. And so your dad and I, we moved to Tulsa to go to school to obey God and all of this. But I had a temper, like, woo, I would just flare. Okay. I know you're like, what? Whatever. People, I'll tell them that story and they're like, that's not you, but it was. And so we were unloading our moving truck. We're at Rhema to go to Bible college. We're unloading the moving truck and I get mad at my husband and I push him in the fireplace. Now, everybody always asks me, what happened? He get burned, and it wasn't on because we were just moving in. But that was how mad I would get, this just kind of explosive temper. And he never responded to me in any other way than being gracious, which was crazy in those moments. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So anyway, so from that moment at the beginning of getting schooled in the word and truly discipled to 2 years later, I was just a completely changed person, no question. And really a before and after Rhema was the difference between knowing Jesus, loving the Lord, but having no equipping to really live in victory in this life. And yeah, Brother Hagin wrote a book called The Prison Doors Are Open, What He's Still Doing Inside, and clearly in some areas, like with my weight loss journey and getting healthy journey, clearly, there are certain areas in our lives that we can gain victory in one area, but still be trapped, in another area. And it's so true for so many of us. And, but it's available. It is absolutely available for all of us, that freedom. And anyway, so we went then and we youth pastored for 5 years in Duluth, Minnesota. Amazing experience, just incredible fruit, just not perfect by no means, but wow, we learned so much, such precious pastors we serve, and still in wonderful relationship with them today. And then 5 years later, my husband, Rhema had started a school of worship program. They have 3 different avenues that people can go into for the 3rd-year program now. And so they didn't have the school of worship the first time. And so it was really sweet because they only choose those that can either lead from a lead instrument, like a guitar or a keyboard, and that can sing, so, and they prefer if you know music theory, but if not, they're going to teach you. But you have to have those core components, the ability to sing and obviously lead from an instrument, or at least have some core component there. And so they had a room for 30 and they chose 11 that year. So we were really, really blessed out of thousands of applicants for him to be a part of that. And anyway, so he's got some amazing relationships yet to this day. As a matter of fact, the worship pastor at Rhema will be coming here for New Year's Eve for a big blowout weekend because they went to School of Worship together all those years ago, almost 25 years ago now. So really cool. And anyway, so we have a unique story in that we went to Rhema twice. So then after that, we went and served with Pastors Kevin and Susan Fletcher in Alma, Arkansas. It's now Beyond Church. It wasn't called that at the time, but just a flourishing work, just amazing, precious people. They're trustees of our church now and been in a relationship with them for a very long time. They're very dear to us. And then after that, we went and worked as executive pastors with Pastors Pat and Brooke Butcher. Again, wonderful experience. So we've worked for 3 pastors in our associate times, if you will, and all 3 very, very different. So we've had some neat opportunity to kind of learn how to, flow and function and undergird and support different kinds of leaders.
Absolutely.
All very, very different people in their management style, personalities, the whole thing, their vision, their focus, all of it, the gift of God that they operate in, all very, very different. But man, I am grateful for those 12 years. And so then for the last almost 14 years, we've been getting the privilege to serve as lead pastors, both of a church that we formerly pastored, and it's called Life Church. And now we planted Generation Church 10 and a half years ago. And we've been pastoring here ever since.
Whoa.
So that's the nuts and bolts of things. Yes.
Wow. That's all.
No, that's awesome.
So in the middle of all of that, yes.
How much do you think where you got was good teaching and how much of it was just the right relationship?
The right relationship with the Lord or with people?
With people.
With people. Gosh, there's a good combination of both. I mean, yeah. But you cannot underestimate the value of relationship, you know, in every sphere of life, both that are peers, both that are, you know, are including those that are peers and those that you are responsible for, but also those that are pouring into you, that are mentoring you. I think there's something really to be said about pursuing the mentor, really deciding what do I want from that mentor, you know, because you're going to see faults in them. You're going to see, closer you get, you're going to see tripping hazards and all sorts of things in your mentor. So it is important to stay really honed in and focused on what is it about them that I want to replicate in my life, you know, because there will be things that you'll also say, I don't want to repeat that. This over here, I don't want to repeat that, fill in that blank, whatever it is. But if you can, you know, what you want, you'll be able to see that more clearly and pursue it, because it is incumbent upon the mentee to pursue the mentor. I mean, it is, because what we want, we have to go after, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's hard for a mentor to pour into a mentee if the mentee doesn't want it.
Yeah, I'd always thought, you know, almost the opposite when I arrived at a church, that my expectation would be that they would just be in their role, and that if I needed to change something, they would change it, because, you know, if a sheep wanders off, he goes and gets it. So I guess I you know, had kind of, you know, but that makes sense. You know, if you look at any millionaire or billionaire or something, when they sought out a mentor, that mentor didn't find them. They sought it out, which is a cool change.
You know, but you're right on both ends though. Cause so like when you're talking about a sheep, right? Pardon me, when a lamb is newborn, they're not going to know to pursue their shepherd. They're not going to know that. So it is when they're in that youthful stage, it is incumbent upon the shepherd to go after that little sheep, to protect them, to keep them safe. And, you know, it's funny to me because the Lord uses these natural analogies to explain the spiritual truths, right? He takes us from what's known to over into these unknown spiritual truths that are blind to us. And yet he loves us so much, he uses these natural analogies. So for Jesus in his day, using the analogy of sheep and sheepfold and all that, it made all kinds of good sense. A little blind to us here because you don't see sheep farms all over the place. See cattle farms, but the way that cattle are driven versus how sheep are led is very different. Like altogether different, right?
Yeah.
So, and my pastor, you're asking about friends and relationships and all that. My pastor, Pat Butcher, who's a farmer, he would explain the difference to us with regard to how sheep are led. They have to willingly follow. They're not driven. They're, whereas cattle are driven. That cowboy is, you know, so it's also a good way to analogize and to understand how Jesus leads us. The good shepherd, the great shepherd, the chief shepherd, right? He leads us quite differently than the enemy. The enemy wants us to feel backed into a corner, you know, where we don't have any option. There's no way of escape, that kind of a thing. And so he's a driver, whereas Jesus is a leader, and a leader leads out ahead. And that been something Pastor Pat would teach us all the time, and it's just stayed with us. It's just a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah, that's something I noticed with training my dog. I know that sounds so random, but and this is something I kind of picked up from poor leadership, but I didn't realize that it was poor leadership until I knew what it needed to look like. And I guess that goes for most things in life. You're doing your thing, and then you see the bar where it should look, and you're like, oh man, I've missed it.
Sure.
And I noticed with my dog, when he was in my way, I'd go, watch out, watch out, watch out. And he would just like fuddle around. And I'm like, please move. And I'm sitting there. And then I finally realized, I go, Koba, come. And I pointed to the spot I wanted him to go, and he instantly went there. And so I realized in leadership, I was like, okay, that is happening so often with people, where a leader will tell the people under them, move, watch out, do this, blah, 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 blah. And instead of leading them, they're actually just telling them to shoot, get out of the place, get out of my direction. And yeah, that kind of plays into that. It's an interesting thing when you're not giving clear instruction of what you want instead of what you don't want, and then letting them wander into what you don't want again.
Yeah. That's such a good analogy, and it's so true. And I know you're not trying to devolve an animal into our relationship with people, but it is very applicable. No question.
Well, you learn from what you learn from. You look at Cesar Millan. I'm sure that he has human stories in ways that they asked him on one of the YouTube channels. They said, do you ever snap and go tss, tss, at your killing kids? And he said, all the time. He said the reason why is because my grandma did it to me. I'm only doing it to the dogs because it's a learned behavior that I knew, and it's how I correct. And my kids got corrected the same way. And so, I think analogies and learning, you can learn anything. I mean, you learned how to do sowing and reaping from mustard seeds in the Bible, So yeah, I think you can be taught from anything.
Well, yeah, and that's how Jesus.
You have a heart to learn, yeah.
And that's how Jesus taught all the time. Like you mentioned, the mustard seed, he taught in parables, and thinking of sheep are kind of retarded, and us as human beings are kind of stupid as well.
Isn't it funny that he uses sheep as to analogize the body of Christ? I'm like, wow, you could have picked a smarter breed, but or species.
Yeah.
But he did that purposefully, and it's predominantly because they're dependent. And it's unsafe for them. There are qualities about sheep that he wants us to learn from. And that really is quite a study in and of itself. So
that's true. Because if you leave a sheep and you don't shear off their wool, they'll just grow and grow until they can't go anywhere.
Oh yeah. It can literally kill them if they're not tended to. And, yeah, pretty crazy, just some of the things. And my mom is from Australia originally, and my sister too. And so, in Australia or even in Ireland, gone over in England, there are lots of sheep farms everywhere. And so we got to tour one, which was really cool, and learn some things with regard to, like, by example, we don't like to think about this, but when the scripture says that the shepherd is to leave the 99 and go after the one. When they go after the one that continues to escape, do you know what they do?
They break all the other sheep's legs.
They break one of the legs.
I'm just joking.
And then they put the sheep over the shoulder. So that iconic artist rendering of the shepherd with the sheep, that painting's been around forever, and it's got the little sheep draped over the shepherd's shoulders. It's that way because the sheep can't walk. It can't run anymore.
Oh, wow.
Because it's less dangerous to break its leg and to mend its leg, requiring that it stay close to and within earshot of the shepherd. Okay. So just think about that. It's better to do that than to have it keep running into danger where it could get picked off by wolves or, what have you, and end up killing the thing. And so, it's fascinating to me that we don't like correction, but if we'll embrace it, it can save our life. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that goes into maybe candid, 3 seriously straight to the point questions. Do you have any, Matt?
No, I was gonna say we need to come up with 2 more questions.
Well, that one was for someone else's. I just keep leaving it in the note. I guess if I had to ask candid, it really would lean into a warning and a wisdom. We do this at the end, and just one warning from your life that's just blanket that works all the time, and one wisdom from your life that's blanket, meaning it like if you had to pick one from one time, which I know that life is not summed up in a single moment to change your whole life. It sometimes is, and I've had a couple suddenlies in my own life that changed the directory by one single thing. But if you had to really, give a one warning of your whole life, what would you do? What would you say?
Because I know that you guys do this, and by the way, I don't know where you got that from other than from the Lord, but my goodness, that is wise in and of itself to incorporate that in your podcast. And but it went in and went out. I'm so sorry. I've been thinking about it for days. That's so funny. We'll start with the warning. Okay. In this season, especially, and what I mean by that is as we're emerging after all these shutdowns and whatnot through COVID, I would say that I've always believed this once I made Jesus the Lord of my life and truly got plugged into a good, solid church home. But more now than ever, even today, even, the counseling opportunities that I had just this day reminded me in a fresh way that it is imperative that we have a church home. It's so important to know who it is that we call pastor. It is absolutely a dangerous place to live outside of that umbrella of protection that's afforded to us, and in addition to that, to have that love and that support from a church family. We're literally designed to thrive in that environment. And so, recently we had somebody come and visit the church and they really, really liked it. And they said, man, they just wanted to know if they could come. And I had to chuckle, like, you're asking if you can come. Wow. And, but this individual, they said, I started going back to church a couple of years before COVID hit. But then, to be honest, I got lazy and I thought, you know what? I appreciate your honesty. And I bet you God appreciates that, seriously. Because the enemy would love nothing better than for us to go and be pulled into isolation and to not be a part of the local church. But what the Lord reminded me of is the Greek word for the church is ecclesia, right? Mm-hmm. And it literally connotates the gathering. It literally that. So the essence of the local church is to gather. And so we our brothers and sisters across the planet who literally, they know the risk they're taking, imprisonment, jail time, potential martyrdom, for them to gather as the church. And yet, because the scripture says that we're not to forsake the gathering, the ecclesia, we're not to forsake that. And it says, and so much more as we see the day, capitalized, the day of the Lord, the day of his return approaching. Wow. So I believe in this moment of time, there are so many things that are good sound counsel that would be, categorized as wisdom and a warning. But that would be one, is to not be left out in a place of isolation or devolved into thinking that it's okay to be your church be found on a screen. Yeah. Because you have no place to be known when you're when you're in that place. There's no accountability in your life. And that's not a good place to live. There's no opportunity. Like today, how many opportunities we had to get groceries into people's homes, to give them meals because they're dealing with, sickness and they're overcoming. If you're not in relationship with the local body of Christ, you have none of that. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All of that practical application added to just the bringing your supply. What if God wants to speak a word through you to somebody at church Sunday whenever it is that church gathering meets,
Yeah.
wherever it is. It doesn't have to be in the four walls of the church, but to be apart from the gathering, it's just a dangerous place. So that would be both, I guess, a wisdom and a warning. But but along those lines, I would say that's probably the most pressing thing that continues to come up in me.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I've got some close friends right now that are thinking about getting a divorce. And I thought it was so interesting that, me and Erica were talking about this, and they wanted to come spend some time with us. And I was like, well, here's the thing. Like, I'm not your pastors. I cannot fix your scenario. I may have a word for you, but I don't have a mantle for you. I may have a word for you, but I don't have a position. And it's just not God's order. He put those 5 positions in place so that it would come to a maturity of Christ and a common faith, a common understanding, that you would agree on the absolutes, and then on the non-absolutes you can find disagreement with agreement walking hand in hand, small stuff. So I thought the exact same thing. How important is it that people want to deal with their issues with best friends? It's like, well, a best friend was never anointed to help you.
Yeah, it's a key point.
A best friend might be anointed to be there and give you a word in season to push you towards Christ. One thing Todd White said, he said on his one of his teachings I was listening to, he said, my job is to point you to Christ. And I've said this on this podcast before. But when I was trying to get free from pornography, I had a bunch of people telling me a bunch of programs I needed to do, and no one told me to just pray about it and seek the Lord. And I think that goes back to people just want to go through problems with how they think they've gone through with them in the past. Like there's not a new structure to go to, like a psychiatrist or a therapist, or, just talking it out or doing a separation, or, I think a lot of times, and people don't know that they don't know. They don't even realize how ignorant they are. And this isn't mean. I don't mean this in a mean way. They just simply are ignorant as to what is a proper step to making things successful. And they just kind of go off on their own and kind of see what happens. And I know even for myself, I have a bit of a tangent to deal with things on my own. And I'm like, oh, if something comes up, I'll take it to the Lord. And I just pray about it and take it to the Lord. But there are times, it says in Proverbs even, that there's wisdom in the counsel of many. So, I think you hit it on the head, especially with this generation. I think people, older people, younger people, they're getting problems in their marriage. Well, we'll take it to somebody who has rightly divided the word. And maybe you have rightly divided the word, but it's good to know somebody else's mindset on it, because there are bents. If you talk to one person in a marriage, he'll be like, well, the husband's goal is to be Christ. He needs to just die on that cross every single day for his wife. Absolutely, that is the cause. And that is the cause. But you'll find another man that'll go, well, it's the man's role to be a leader. And he'll be like, you need to stand up for what's right in your family. Well, those aren't opposing, but a lot of times if you talk to somebody who is hyper on the cross, they won't stand their ground and they'll let their wife do whatever. And then if you find somebody that's too far on stand their ground, they don't know how to sit. And so I think, that pastoral role, even with good Bible knowledge, that evangelist role, that apostle role, is going to bring a full understanding of where the plumb line is, or what it should look like walking a marriage out, or walking friendships out, or walking out what church should look like. So no, I think I agree. I believe you hit it on the head with something that's hyper needed, extremely needed in society.
I do too. Like, ditto.
For sure. No, for sure.
But to add on, I agree with everything Charles was saying, everything you were saying, because we do need the body of Christ. And it's so interesting that's in the last couple years, that's exactly, well, actually throughout all history, that's where Satan tries to divide us. You look at different denominations breaking up different beliefs. But even in the last year, just with everything going on with COVID and all that, just shutting down so many churches, that we really do need to get back to that sense of normalcy and have that community gathering, it's so vital, because it's like, where would I be if I wasn't at a church? I wouldn't have the friends I have. I wouldn't, I wouldn't, my friends come from church. My relationships come from church. My counseling comes from church. It's very true. And so that was very good. And on the note,
that
it was so good.
That reminds me of, were you going to say something, Mama?
No, go ahead. You go.
That reminds me of something. And it's that a lot of times, and this is one of the problems one of my other friends is having, is since he doesn't have a church that he's going to regularly, he's confusing fellowship and ministry. And I find that is a huge problem for people when they are hanging out with people that don't live the same lifestyle or don't see Jesus. When I was just reading this today, he's at the table with Levi, the tax collector. That happened. The tax collector, and he's working with all these apostles, and the Pharisees ask him, they go, "Why do you eat with the tax collectors?" And he wasn't there to hang out. He said, "Because a sick man needs a physician." And I think it's so important, if you're in a place where there's smoking or drinking, and I'm not saying that these are surefire signs of somebody totally off the deep end, you're not going to be like, a drink, hell, there are more things to the equation. And I know very, very good Christians that drink, but they truly drink under the guise of what is a true person that drinks in the Bible. And Timothy talks about taking a little bit for his stomach. It also says, don't be drunk with wine, for this is dissipation. It even says the degree in which it's supposed to be. I'm not for drinking here. I'm just breaking down. I don't want anybody to think because you've had a sip of beer and therefore you're going to hell. So, but no, he said, I had purpose. I was in a sinner's house because I had purpose. I was in this person's house because I had purpose. I was next to all these people that were doing prostitution, yada, yada, because I had purpose. And I think it's so important in this day and age that, kids are rightly aligned with purpose, and they're not like, I'm there just because I'm there. Well, once you're there just because you're there, whether you have a mandate or not, you entered for the wrong reason. Now, maybe I've had this in my own life where I received grace when I entered through the door for the wrong reason. I went to a party one time and I ended up ministering to somebody at that party, but I wasn't there for a purpose. And, I had grace in it, but I didn't go through the door right. So that kind of tracks off you, Matt. I just think I think it's so important, that you have that church family. You said my friends are from church, and I'm not trying to be hyper, don't hang out with people outside of the church, but remember your relationship with them, because all it takes is you to have a moment and you're like, man, my day was really rough. And then they give you what? Now, I know most people wouldn't say this, and they're like, oh, well, they're just going to help you out. But what do they have to give you? And I'm not devaluing an unchristian's opinion, but here's the thing. I am saying that they have no God to give you. Smith Wigglesworth said, when you look into a man's eyes, you look not for a man, but you look for God. And it goes in every factor of life. When you're talking to somebody, they're not looking for you. They're looking for acceptance. And where does acceptance come from? From God. People are looking for identity. You can't give it. You can give a position at a job. You can give yada, yada, yada. So I just, I agree with you, Matt, that your friends are so important because they need to give you little pieces of God throughout your day, and little answers with God involved, and little prayers with God involved, because he's the one that, just like 1 Samuel 10:9, the Spirit came upon him and he was changed into a new man. That gives me such hope in who we are as failures to be great. So no, you hit it on the head, Matt.
We're hitting a lot of heads.
We're hitting a lot of heads. Bop, bop, bop.
Right. Along the line, can I add a couple of thoughts?
Yeah, we got 6 minutes.
Okay. These are quick. If you go to Acts 2:42, right, there are 4 components of the early church. And what's really cool is it says that they continued in the apostles' doctrine. They continued in prayer, breaking bread and fellowshipping every single day, every day. Yeah. Now, say, next week we were to announce, hey, we're going to be meeting every single day. We're going to be the ecclesia. We're going to gather every day. I think people probably have a come apart. But beyond that, what were they doing? They were building community, right?
Yeah, that's good.
It goes on and it says that they had a good report with those that were outside of the church, the early church. And as a result, that 3,000 were added in one day. So what was it that they were seeing? They were seeing this sense of community, this love, this intertwined life. And they were seeing that in action, and it was attractive to them.
Yeah.
So church is functioning as it was designed to. It's powerful. And so then beyond that, with regard to having a pastor, so not only having a church, but having a pastor, because we can attend church and not really have a pastor, right? So Pastor Hcg told us a story one time. This is probably 8 or 10 years ago now. So after we had, graduated from Raymond and so forth, and there was one of his graduates that was pastoring, and he and his wife had gone to Hawaii on a vacation, right? So super fun time, lighthearted. He contracts a virus, oddly enough, right? Contracts a virus within 24 hours. He's in ICU, and they say he's not going to live another 24 hours. So his wife calls up Pastor Hcg and says, what do we do? And so he said, give me some time to pray. So he goes, prays, and the Holy Ghost. And he calls her back and he said, says to the wife, what does your husband call me? And she was befuddled by it, like, what? And he said, what does he call me? And she said, oh, well, he calls you pastor. And he said, then I have a word for him. He will live and not die and declare the works of the Lord. He will be raised up.
Wow.
And this word from the Spirit of God, that he had that place of submission, and it was a protected place. It was absolutely powerful. The way that Pastor Hcg then explained that was in such humility. It wasn't like, well, you need to be under me so that I can, protect. No, it wasn't that. But he would not have had ears to hear the Spirit of the Lord for that man if he was not under his protection. And so he's still pastoring today, totally miraculously healed out of that amazing, absolutely amazing turnaround. So there is something to that, having somebody that you can call pastor, and that is your shepherd. And so then lastly, as far as wisdom, I remembered it was being quick to obey. So taking this, maybe this word of warning, and it also is a wisdom, and really seek the Lord and ask him, where would you want me? Lord, use me, place me where you need me most. And he'll do it. He will do it.
Wow.
Glory to God.
Well, this has been God Dots.
Yeah, episode 5.
That was the best episode.
Oh, yeah, and I pay you well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I've been waiting for the check in the mail. No, but that was awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to being on here, and
thank you so much.
Thank you guys for doing this, because you know what? You're going to reach people that some of us old farts are never going to be able to reach. I'm serious. I'm being silly, but that's the truth.
For sure. And I think it's easily swallowed. One thing I noticed, I'm going to be less than 5 seconds here, apparently, but we were working with youth the other day, and I was talking to him. And then as soon as I tried to teach him, he instantly shut down. And I was like, well, that was strange, because we have rapport. And I was like, rapport gone in half a second as soon as I tried to tell you what to do. And when it's this kind of format, nobody's getting told what to do. And eventually they do need to get told what to do. But for now, you take what you get. So yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We love you. And that's episode 5.
That's exciting. Yay. Yay for episode 5.